Hey, it's Lance of 20 Saturday Night.
And I'm Evan.
And today we're just talking about some of our impressions from Starfinder now that the game's been out for a little bit over 2 years, I think it's been.
Yeah.
And so we're just going over a few things like how certain starship combat and vehicle combat works, a little bit about how it feels to play in the sci-fi setting, if it's difficult to play, or magic.
Yeah. There's a lot of good and bad things I like about Starfinder. Some of the good things are, I like that they did put things in like vehicle combat or starship combat, just because in D&D it felt like, well, you can either just run around and shoot someone, or you can get on a horse or be in a cart, but that's it. It is nice how they did put things like spaceships and cars, even though some flaws in there, but I don't know, overall I like it. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, about some of those flaws that are in this, it's one of the ones that really stands out to me. Things like the lower tier, well, basically all the tiers of vehicles, whether it be the exploration buggy or the basic intercycle, they have a top speed of around 22 miles per hour. Like, not a top speed,
that's a travel
but they basically
speed,
have travel speed, which is you're out of combat and you're just kind of driving around, of 20 miles an hour. But they don't really go into anything more about either upgrading it or if that's like just because you're going kind of slow because you have to accommodate for a combat or what have you. But then just imagine a 22 mile an hour freeway chase and dirt bike shootout. It's not exciting at all.
Because when I was reading, what I got is like your movement speed, just I don't know when you're doing movement, the bigger speed, like your race action, that's when you're really gunning it, and then the travel speed, it's kind of when you're going at more like a leisurely pace. But like you're saying, 22 miles an hour, that's basically a golf cart. And it's one of those things where I get that for balancing, you don't want it to be going too fast. I really do like how they put a travel speed in there, because my God, in D&D, trying to figure out, well, how fast does this horse move? Well, I don't know. It's like
the old protractor out.
Yeah, so we got to look up how fast does a horse move when it's laden down. But it's so much stuff in just one horse, and all of us in it. It's like, well, we got to figure out how. It's a whole bunch of bullshit, and I like how they did put that in there, so you can just see miles per hour. But even like that's like golf cart speed, or when you're going through like a slow neighborhood, that's at least 25 miles an hour. That's faster than like just the regular cruising speed of an intercycle, which is supposed to be like a dirt bike, which. And it's not the greatest vehicle out there, but it's better than a golf cart.
The basic intercycle having a 22 miles per hour, and the only reason why I'm griping so much about the basic intercycle is because the intercycle is what we were using, well, what my character uses. They're supposed to be an ace pilot, but land speed vehicles based, and they only have the intercycle because they're level 1 and they have to start everything over. I'm not going to go too much into the backstory of my character here, but. And it's just frustrating that it's 22 miles per hour as like its regular land speed. And sure, everybody can say, well, you can make upgrades to it, but it doesn't make any sense.
I haven't seen anything in the books about how to upgrade a vehicle. It seems like it's mostly just something you'd have to homebrew or have a GM say, hey, so you put a better engine in there, so now it goes faster. But
which most GMs will be fine with, but I don't like banking off of GM buy-in, just because if you bring that to, say, a game where they're only playing with the core rules in the core rule book,
or it's a newer GM, and it's like, listen, this is my first time, it's a lot going on.
Yeah, or if it's a Starfinder Society game, I don't like the idea of needing to rely on somebody to change the rules just for me. That being said, a few things in vehicle combat do make sense and are neat, like the different rules they added for crash and drive-bys are kind of cool. Some of the stuff is kind of wonky at first glance, like the run-over actions that you can take, but overall the rules are pretty good. They just need to amp up the speed a little bit, which even if you look in the the Pack Rules books, where they do have more vehicles, they don't. It just kind of stays the same sort of 22 miles per hour, or up to, hold on to your butts, people, up to 75 miles per hour.
Yeah, and that's like a cop car, which they're supposed to be pretty fast. Like most police cars are way faster than any, even like high-end cars, because they need to catch criminals. And I get that, because that vehicle's cruising speed's like 75 miles an hour, which I get it. That's like, I sort of think of it as like your freeway speed kind of thing,
But if we're taking that as being freeway speed, it's also the basic intercycle goes back to being one of those like electric bicycles. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. But I didn't really like that much. And if it's like a balancing thing, it'd make more sense if they did something where maybe instead of make it cost 700, they could be like, well, it's 2,000 credits because it's a new motorcycle or something, where maybe just boost up the the basic movement speed and the travel speed by like factor of 3.
But this is really the only niggling point that I have with the vehicles. Everything else seems pretty solid. It makes a lot of sense. Motorcycles can't count as cover just because while they're big, they're not really the best cover, but a lot of vehicles can. The exploration buggy, a lot of things that seems like it could be there. There's just a few weirder parts in Starfinder that also aren't in the errata that I think are weird. Such as some things I like to see added on there would be spellcasting.
Yeah, I mean, I like spellcasting. I really like how they do sort of compensate for the fact that it is a sci-fi game, so they do have certain spells like healing or causing radiation damage, or that's also like a damage type. You can also do like a life bubble where you can make so you can breathe in space or junk bots, so you can sort of make a minion out of just random crap you find on the ground. But it seems like just overall it's not as robust, like in coming from a D&D background where level 6 or 7 spells are like disintegrating people or making a magic clone of yourself.
There is also Wish, which is in Starfinder, but that's in every tabletop role-playing game, which that's obviously what the wizard or the primary spellcaster does, is I make my mind's reality real and flavor text that I'm doing this. It's got to be in there, but there's some spells like Energy Ray, which is a 0-level spell that I did have to double-check earlier, which... It seems like it's a D3 of damage, which by God, that's not a lot.
That's not even real dice.
You have to. There's 2 ways to do it. You can roll 2d6s and divide it by half, but why?
Or I guess find some sort of weirdo with a 3D printer and say, make me a 3-sided dice.
You can buy D3s, but they're novelty dice, so they'll typically cost more. But it's not in the standard polyhedral set, so it's just frustrating that it's in there. It's kind of weird because the lowest valued pistol, I think it's a semi-auto pistol, or the Pulsecaster pistol, I think it's a D4 as well, which the lower end of the small arms, that is a D4, which you would kind of think if somebody's going to take time to study magic, whether it be through years or being the special chosen Destiny Boy, being able to do magic, it will probably be comparable to a mid-range weapon. There's also no feats that you can use to increase the damage of weapons. There's, I think, Arcane Assailant or Mystic Strike feat that you can use to increase the damage of to be able to bypass resistances to damage and make it be magical for the purpose of damage, but there's nothing to keep pace with the soldier shooting at people once they get better guns on the line.
And I get like some things like how in the book it's saying just because of how technology's increased where they have laser rifles, so instead of paying a guy who basically has the equivalent of a magic PhD to go blast someone, you can just buy a bunch of laser rifles and hand to just a bunch of dudes and they can just and do the same thing. I mean, I kind of get that, but
you would think people would up their PhDs, or at least how you study science or whatnot over the course of decades and generations, and new methods they are done to make things that are more efficient or to learn more about something. You'd think that probably transfer into magic since they're...
Yeah, I know. Also, I think one of the in-lore reasons was that a lot of stuff was lost during the gap, and I think some of it might have been, oh man, all my cool high-level spells were gone, so... And I know I was talking to Dylan about it because he plays Pathfinder, and he says, the Pathfinder spells are pretty comparable to 5th edition, so I don't know why they nerfed it. I mean, there's that whole thing where it's like, oh, it's the gap, and my big thing is I get that there's a lot of balancing issues because they don't want to make magic too overpowered, because then why deal with technology? And on the same hand, you don't want to make technology too powerful, because then why bother being a wizard? But
it seems like Starfinder went with the latter of those two.
Kind of in some ways. I mean, when I was playing Baylor, I felt like there wasn't a lot of as many blasty spells, but being the healer, he was still able to do his job fine and just still heal. And there's some spells where he could still blast you, but it just wasn't as much, or it's a little harder.
Like there's Mind Thrust, which is a good first level spell. I think it's 2D.
It's 2d10 and it's a will save throw, and
which is pretty good, even if you're comparing it to D&D spells. But at the same time, it's like a spell slot that you have to sack out. The one saving grace with Energy Ray that I like a lot with it is that you can change what energy type it is when you cast the spell, or when you add it onto your spell book, so that way you can't, you only need one spell to be able to be an ice caster if you're from the frozen plains of the Winterlands in Akaton, if that's what it's called, or if you're a real flame boy from the sun, you can make all of your your energy rays be fire casting. But And I guess that would also be good to change that for different situations. Like, say you're facing an ice golem and they're immune to ice. You can be casting energy ray at it all day, but might be immune to ice and resistant to fire, but it says nothing in there about acid. That's really good about that. I like that a lot. I'm just kind of griping there's no feat to increase that. There might be, as you mentioned before, how there's like some sort of magic was lost during the gap, which we did a pretty good gap video about it.
Yeah.
It would be probably good to. It would probably be good to for them to add some extra feats in there to help the casters out a little bit, but it would kind of be a kick in the shorts for somebody who doesn't want to have to buy a whole extra book in order to just increase their magic game.
Yeah, or something where you have a technological item that boosts you somehow makes like magic easier. Like, oh yeah, it takes sort of, I don't know, the random shenanigans that make magic happen. It sort of draws that in. Like in Warhammer 40k, I'll have like the psychic hood where it's like, yeah, it makes you just more insano blasting. But
how would you make that? Because I have some ideas. I know we typically stay away from homebrewing for a lot of these, but how would you make that?
I don't know, it'd probably be like an item that would, just off the top of my head, it would probably be something where it scales in how much it makes like an item, or how much it makes a spell do more damage. Like maybe the level 1 version of the item would, I don't know, give you +1 damage for each die that you roll, and then, further up, and then you could make it cost more. I don't know, maybe something like an implant that you'd have to put in.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, so here's my idea for it, and let me know what you think. It would be some sort of magic ring, or even an implant if you want to go more technomancer based. And do you know how there's that weapon proficiency feat that you can, not a weapon specialization feat that you can have, where you can increase the damage? It would just give that feat, but to a spell.
Oh yeah.
Like to one spell, like to energy ray, or to mind thrust, or what have you. Or it can even be an armor upgrade. We attach it to that upgrade slot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so something like that where, it'd be nice if they would have put like a little boosting like that to make magic a little better for some, in our opinion, just the lack of blasty spells. I know there's probably a lot of you at home saying, well, I'm not a blasty wizard, I'm just fine, but I kind of like being a blasty wizard. It's pretty cool. It's pretty rad.
That, and there are a few other spells in Starfinder that I would have liked to see more. One thing that's, again, this sounds like a lot of me griping about spells, but it was the one thing in Starfinder, was one of the very few things that I don't think Starfinder did well enough, would be, there's not a lot of spells that are, how can I put this? I lost my train of thought. How dare I? You can also scream at me for being a filthy in the comments down below.
Yeah. Like I said, one thing I do like about Starfinder is that the variety of weapons it has. Like, I know in D&D, just because it's like a medieval fantasy setting, so it's like, listen, it's a sword, it's a piece of metal that's this long, or this long, or this long, and it's sharp, and you put the sharp inside of someone, or it's like, it's a bow, you just, there's not a ton you can do. I do like where they do have a lot of different weapons, where it seems like, oh, it's a weapon from clearly like a very different culture. Like they have, like from Eox, those the bone weapons that are made from like necromantic shenanigans that do cold damage, or
that corpse finger thing. What is that? The thing where like it's like, is this a zombie's hand that you use and you touch somebody and they cast disintegration on them or whatever?
Yeah, there's some weird stuff like that, or how the Vesk have those weird dragon guns where it's like, yeah, you can use this, and it, just having it makes your intimidation rolls better, just because it's like a big scary weapon.
Which I'm gonna get, it's a dragon's face that somebody tore off.
Yeah, it shoots like fire or something. Flamethrowers are like rocket launchers or sniper rifles or heavy machine guns. I do like that. The other thing is, it seems like for a lot of things, especially with the slug throw weapons, I haven't messed with a lot of heavy weapons, but things like we've griped about this so much, but the semi-auto pistol, the fact that after 20 feet you start getting range increments, and I get balancing, but just and this is my opinion, but whenever I go to the shooting range, I shoot 20 yards, which is 3 times that much, and I'm decently okay, so maybe boosting the range to like yard, yards.
One, it's an American game, and yards are heresy. How dare you?
Yards 3 feet.
Shut up.
England changed you, dude.
Wow! But so that's like a novice using it, or there's room for error. If you're not going to hit, like say if you're just hitting 20 feet, you are probably going to have a pretty good chance of always hitting the mark, so there's going to be there's going to be very little to no chance of error if you're hitting something that's within 20 feet of you. Once it gets a little bit further, yeah, you may be off by a few inches of your center of mass, whatever you're shooting at, and so you're probably going to get a -5 because you can't always just be hitting that all day long. And then for each 5 feet out, it's another, an additional 2.
Yeah, which
I like it. It makes sense because it shows, unless you have that feat to be specialized in shooting that far, which is the far shot feat, it is going to ding you for each one.
Yeah, but it seems like just the range is just like I do, like you're saying, I do like how they have that range increment thing where it's not like how in some video games, like when you use a shotgun or whatever, except for like Gears of War, where it's like, yeah, after 10 feet, the shotgun, it'll kill gods. But then at 15 feet away, it's like what was that, confetti?
No, even in Gears, if you shoot somebody with the shotgun, say I am here, and then you're at the Maverick down the street, you'll still just be blasting me all day long. I've been head popped through cover with the blind fire with the Gnasher on Warzone. By God, Gnasher.
Yeah, so I get that, there's certain things where the bolts just don't disappear or something, but I think it would make sense for it to have like a longer range than just 20 feet, like 60 feet. I get 60 feet.
See, that's what the far shot feat is for people who go out there and actually practice it. Like, the feats are for somebody who's practiced at that, where if you don't have it, that's why you get that detriment.
Yeah, just 60 feet, it's in my opinion, still not far. Like, if they had differing sort of slug throws, like, yeah, it's like a hideaway pistol, like basically like a snub nose, that would be 20 feet. Seems like, that's like a miracle if you hit someone with that shot with a snub nose, but...
Well, that's what the range is on some of the small arms. It is 20 feet for them, and then I think it's like it's 30 feet, which still isn't as far as like the range that it should be. Yeah. But it's never going to be... Like, that's a really bad compromise saying it's never going to be perfect. But I understand why, if somebody that's not spec, they never go out to the shooting hole. They always practice on like sort of match. Like, how often do you go out to the shooting hole into the range?
Oh God, it's been like about a month or so.
Yeah, so that's been a month, and you're just a very casual shooter.
Yeah.
But you still go out there. So you probably, I don't want to say you're proficient in. Well, you're probably proficient in them, and you might be able to train up to getting getting that far shot feat if you were to go out there every say few weeks or so.
Yeah, but also then things like the was it the auto rifle? Like
the auto target.
Yeah, the auto target rifle. That range is 60 feet, which for a rifle, that's. Pistols I can get because it's like, yeah, it's short barrel, blah blah blah. But with a rifle at 60 feet, that's.
I get, but okay, take a few things into consideration here when you're doing range combat, right? You're shooting at somebody, and it's only like a -2 detriment past 5 feet. So at 65 feet, there's also the issue of there's also people shooting at you. There's also things going on with. There's also, it might be a moving target. There's also things like you're scared at the moment, or there's a lot going on. There's a difference between shooting at somebody who's shooting at you. Say if you're dealing with some bloods or somebody that's in the wrong neighborhood and they're not wearing the right colors, or against somebody who's just or against like a paper target on the range.
Yeah. Well, that's more of like the user using it, but I'm saying like just the gun stats, because that should just be like. When they're testing it, like, I don't know, space guns incorporated, when they're testing that, it seems like the range should be farther. Like, again, that could be something where like you're saying, there's moving targets and all that, but to me it seems like that the stat sheet for the gun stats, that should be not really left to human error. That's left to like a ballistics test. Like if they put something, like if they like put a gun in a mountain, they shoot it from like 60 feet away, where they do something like put like a bore sight in, and they put the bullet and they shoot it, and then see what the error is, just because it's in like sterile testing conditions. It still should be farther than 60 feet.
See, I think that's the difference here. I am seeing it from the position of it being somebody who is using it, say, if they are shooting at somebody in the middle of a crowded subway, or if they're shooting at it like, say, if they're, I don't know, firing at somebody because they're in AFCON, what else are they going to do all day except for murder people? I'm seeing it in that situation, like an adventuring scenario, where not like a sterile environment where there's no, like, any chance of error has been removed.
Yeah, that's sort of difference of opinion, but the stat sheet should just be the stats, and everything else should be the player the character, maybe based on their training or their background, it could, maybe they get something better. I don't know, I think things like that, but also the hand exploder. Again, we've said it before. I don't know.
Before we get into the hand exploder, about however you decide whether it be in a sterile testing environment or into whether it's you get that detriment for the extra 5 feet because they're considering the player use it. Scream at us down in the comments down below of which way you decide to have range combat and the different that weird 30 to 20 feet be. Is it player or is it the gun sucks?
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, that's kind of a difference, but I don't know.
Hand exploder.
Yeah, hand exploder.
Tell me, what's wrong with the hand? Because I think it's perfect. If you need to explode your hand in a hurry, the advanced shell knuckles, certainly a way to go. I mean, come on, look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it is... I mean, I get where they're going. It seems like a cool idea where it's like, yeah, if you're punching someone, but also at the same time, 2 12 gauges, that's fine, just the fact that they're facing the wrong way. So, but also the fact that just with a bullet or anything like that, it's again going back to the whole Starfinder bullets or whatever. I can't say without lasers because I'm not a scientist. I don't know how lasers would work. But with bullets, it's the reason why they're in a barrel is because you have an explosion and the whole thing is you're trying to put all the force going this way, but if you just have just a shotgun shell lying around and you make it explode, just because the very little I know about science, things are going to go to the least resistance, and least resistance is kind of everywhere, especially with a shotgun shell where it's a bunch of little things where they're not going to be channeled down a barrel, they're just kind of going to go wherever. Probably even not with the full force. There's I think there's a Mythbusters episode where their whole thing is they're going over that weird myth where, of course, Florida Man was storing his guns in his oven, and he just put a bunch of bullets in the oven, and he's forgot about it. He's like, oh man, I want to make some tendies, and he turned it on to preheat it, and the bullets just shredded everything. But
and they quartered him out, and his last dying words were, "Oh, this tendy economy just isn't worth it." And then of course he boom in his diaper, and his mother came and cleaned him out.
And then he died. What the hell? But yeah, just if you don't put a bullet in a barrel, it's gonna just sort of explode from the side or whatever. But with getting back to hand exploder, it seems like it's just gonna throw a bunch of shrapnel haphazardly everywhere when you try to punch someone. If they turn the shells around and then put some tiny little barrels that sort of extend just even barely just past the shell.
The hand?
Yeah, just past the shells. Just because they're pretty far up the knuckles.
Oh, they were past the knuckles?
Yeah, they're pretty far. They're just turned around, but even something just past the shell, just so it's going to channel it. Because again, if it's that sort of a barrel, you're going to get a range increment. But if your range is bam,
I'm calling Black Lives Matter. I mean, we don't, but I'm still calling them.
Yeah, well, you talk to Jesse Smalley about it. But yeah, it just seems like that's going to explode your hand. Maybe I'm not going to knock anyone for not doing this. How dare you not do the same hobby? But it seems like a little research, or you ask the one guy, it's like, hey, you like shooting? Is this going to work? And you'd be like, no, probably not. I'm going to go back to doing
probably just go back to doing art, or just I'm your office skateboarder. Does kickflip and leaves. But I get that. Another thing that was weird. Okay, so I can't get off of the hand exploder, but. So I think their idea was the primer was just a little bit past the barrel, right? Yeah. So when they hit you, it would activate the primer that comes back, and that's all they thought. They didn't think about this, but that's all they thought about. Yeah. If they turn it around and put some sort of button on your whatever this part is, just a little bit below your knuckles, so when you hit, it does that because the thing here, and then it activates the primer that way, kind of like a button style trigger. That would make more sense than just. You also have to punch somebody with the force to hit the hammer. Yeah,
or something where they put, in the knuckles, they have something in there where there's a little button, so you can decide if you just want to give someone a little love tap or, explode their...
No, if you forget that you're wearing those hand exploders when you give somebody dap, or when you're, I don't know, or you give your companion a playful tap on the shoulder, boom!
It's oh no, that wasn't playful at all.
Oh, well...
But I don't have health insurance because we're murder hobos.
Actually, okay, so... In Starfinder, they're not murder hobos because, I guess they could be, but what is Starfinder's expression or phrase? Because space pirate, murder hobo.
Well, I think murder hobos, it's universal. You could just just be a wandering Florida man or
Florida woman. Floridian?
Yeah, you're wandering Floridian, or
oh shit! I just realized why people are so wild these days. They're putting fluoride in the drinking supply.
Hey, don't give me that fluoride stare, Lance.
All right, but go on.
Yeah, but it's like just like your random wandering Floridian, or yield tiny just adventurers. Yeah, I don't know what they call it. Like I know in Dungeons and Dragons adventurers, in Starfinders is just.
I want to say mercenary, but that doesn't seem.
Yeah, it's not correct. Because adventure, it's all encompassing. Like I guess you could use adventure. It just seems off.
Explorer, maybe.
Yeah, but it's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, we're exploring
the gang structure. New world.
We're exploring the gang structure of the lower levels of Akaton or Absalom Station.
We're Vice back when Vice used to be cool.
Maybe like freelance something or
freelancers.
Yeah, freelancers.
Actually, that's kind of an apt description of them. They're freelancers because a lot of the times you're just working with people.
Freelance what? I don't know. Why don't you shut up and stop asking so many questions?
Or this week I can be a freelance security agent, or this week I can be a freelance cartographer. So yeah, freelance is actually, and that's because it has my name in it.
Yeah, but they'd have to give you away, and then it'd be out of Lance.
Yeah, well, that ain't bad. What's living? All right, so out of this, what supplemental?
We kind of been screaming for.
Right.
Is there anything else to sort of scream about? We're on general. I think we should get back to general impressions to start because it seems like we've already screamed out everything we need to scream about.
All right, so what's a harder place setting to be in? Would you rather to DM first time?
I think it depends on the background because, for me, doing a Starfinder game was kind of hard because I'm just hardwired to, it's ye olde time, so you're like a tavern or there's like goblins and you just kind of gotta walk somewhere. But,
for Starfinder, it's a little bit harder to start out where that adventure is going to be just because, there's a bounty board that they have it up on the on the Space Craigslist.
Yeah, because bounty, it seems like it'd make more sense rather than... Because medieval times, because writing was real hard back then because you got to get vellum or parchment, which was expensive.
Or it's like a guy's skin.
Yeah, that's basically
or
vellum.
A lady's skin.
Yeah, that's basically what vellum is. It's just like an animal skin.
Oh, I mean like a lady's.
The more you know. But, yeah, it's like you'd have to get parchment, which is kind of a bitch to make back then, and, write it down. Ooh, there's this person, and then it's like, I had to hand draw that. It took me 30 minutes. Are we going to have more wanted posters? No, I've got to go die of the plague now.
Or, I made all these. I made 50 of these because I really hate this person, but nobody here can read.
Yeah, so maybe it seems more viable to have a bounty board in Starfinder times because they can just use the printer. Like, oh man, toner's out of ink. Oh man, that's the biggest drawback we're going to have, or the fact that printers never work because they're divas, or just putting a big old touchscreen bounty board.
Yeah, or if you don't want to do bounties, if your guy just isn't out to just some sort of a galactic LinkedIn account, or
I know that's basically the whole draw of the Starfinder Society. It's like, hey, so are you a murder hobo, but you don't want to say that you're a murder hobo? Well, we're the Starfinder Society, so it's a little more, little less shameful.
The Android Apple. I feel like each of the factions, they do have their own sort of way to get jobs if you do want to go in a faction-based games. Like the Android Abolitionist group, Android Abolitionist Front, they might have a few ways to sort of tell all their people. How in Fallout when there was the railroad and they had to do things like, oh, okay, I'm going to put this job out to save this synth who is running away. They could do something similar to that in Starfinder, where the person would send out a call over an encoded sort of radio signal or subnet signal that all the Android abolitionists would get, and then that could be one way to get your jobs from them if you are part of that group.
I never played the loser faction. I was always
Brotherhood Steel?
Yeah, Brotherhood, or the good guys, the actual people who had a plan, the Institute. I
get it.
They're a little spooky about it, but at least they had a plan where I'm the Brotherhood of Steel, where it's listen,
we're manifesting destiny here,
and
if anybody gets in my way, they're gonna get a mental boot up their ass.
Yeah, the Institute's listen, we're not the bad guys, but we got iPhones. We want to make more iPhones and make it so it's not just hell over here, and we got to do some spooky stuff because Raiders won't like it, and also people like just doing drugs all day. It's like, no, I want to live in this abandoned baseball field and get high all day. I don't want to get a job. That sounds lame. Ugh.
So this is a quick tangent about the Brotherhood still. Are they kind of, it seems like they're really kind of based off of 40k, because they're in giant power armor. The main enemy are the super mutants, who are basically the orcs. It seems they're real, they're not the bad guys, but they're also not the most benevolent of good guys.
I mean, I don't want to get on a whole tangent. It's like asking who's faster, Superman, the Flash. We're not getting into that.
Superman's faster, but okay, we'll get on that next time.
I think they're just like big power armored boys, and they kind of like Caesar's Legion, but if they weren't going out of their way to be to be bad, where Caesar's Legion, it's like, yeah, so we're gonna put you up on a cross and beat you to death. Also, ladies, no rights. Ew, bleh. We're gonna force everyone to just like bang their bros, and if you drink alcohol, we'll put you on a cross. The Brotherhood is still they're still kind of fascist-y, where there's a lot of real rough rules, but
I get why they're kind of fascist-y, where like
you need to be heavy-handed.
Everybody was bad for a while.
Yeah, it's like if everyone just being murder rascals, like not even murder hobos, we're like, we're on a quest, so we just sort of someone said, hey, there's some big rats or goblins in the basement, go beat them up. But they're just like walking around. It's like, oh man, what's our quest today? I want to get some more smack. And that kid looks like he has something I could roll him for. Are you gonna rob him? No, I mean just bam. Well, now I'm gonna rob him.
And it seems like in Fallout, this could probably be my last conversation, like my last tangent about Fallout. Like I want to say a majority of the people, maybe about 2/5 of the people in Fallout are raiders. So I get why the Brotherhood are really heavy-handed, because they look down like from the Pridwin and just saw everybody wearing somebody's skin. There's also like monsters everywhere, so
it's like, hey, listen, maybe it's better to sort of nuke the block and then rebuild, but
not really nuke. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Going back to this for a second, I think so Fallout style game. Do you think that would be easy to run in Starfinder? Like if you single planet based?
Yeah, I mean, not that hard. Just basically say, hey, so there's no starships and everything kind of, I'm going to have to look at how radiation works. But, yeah, it might be fine. But with, I don't know, for me it was kind of hard transitioning from, like, fantasy stuff to Starfinder, because I did kind of forget for a while that, oh, yeah, there are cars and other things you could do when I was trying to make, build the universe. It's like, hey, so there are cars and other planets, and it seems like it's be more structured, because there are going to be a lot more people who just have jobs where it's like, hey, so I just do tech support and then I go home. Where it's not like, yeah, I'm a baker and we have to do everything we have to do is just for survival. There's more like luxury things where it's not just, hey, so I want to get drunk, or there's a guy who can play the guitar, which is like the height of entertainment. There's kind of like more.
There's the different professions you can have in Starfinder, which is really nice if you do want to. If say your murder and hoboing or freelancing is probably like a month or two out of your year, you can do things like take extended periods of downtime. Maybe have like certain behind the scenes, or not that forefront of roles to see what wealth or whatever other random encounters you will go into over the course of that time.
Yeah, because even if you are doing the thing where it's like the Firefly, where you're just sort of roaming around, you somehow you got a starship and now you're sort of roaming around looking for work. There's other things you could do, like there's that lady who was like, I'm a fancy prostitute, or there's that one guy who's like, I go around and I'm like a bouncer when we're on planets, and I get bar bets for who can drink the most rot gut, and then other people were like, hey, they didn't have a lot of other jobs. But
I'm a space racist.
Yeah, the worst space racist, but listen,
it's a good job if you can get it.
Yeah, it doesn't pay well, but.
By the way, since I do think that we should end this note on kids at home. Since Space Force is becoming a thing, there is a SpaceX as well as the Amazon guys company, the Green Horizon or whatever coming up. You will have the opportunity, if you're good and stay in school, you will have the opportunity to be a space racist when you grow up. Again, that'll end this episode of 27 Night. Thanks again for watching, and bye for now.